Hey, I'm Dollar Dave, and today I want to talk about your driveway. Specifically, I want to talk about the thing sitting in it, the big, shiny, brand new truck. The one with the chrome step rails and the tow package and the leather seats and the panoramic sunroof. The one with the payment that runs somewhere north of $800 a month before you even factor in the insurance bump and the premium gas. Now, I'm not here to make you feel bad. I genuinely am not. I understand exactly why you bought it. You work 50 hours a week. You sit in traffic for another 10. You've got a mortgage, a marriage, maybe a couple of kids, a lawn that's always a week overdue. You are grinding every single day. And one afternoon, you walked through that dealership, you sat in that cab, and for about 45 minutes, life felt different. It smelled like possibility. It had heated seats and a 12-inch touchscreen and that new car smell that is basically just someone bottling the concept of starting over. I get it. I really do. But I need to ask you one question, and I need you to answer it honestly. In the last 12 months, what did you haul in that truck bed? Groceries, maybe a couch one time, maybe some mulch from the hardware store in April that you never actually spread. And that's it. That truck has never been to a job site. It has never towed a boat you own. It has never hauled lumber for a cabin you're building. It pulls into the parking garage at your office 5 days a week and sits there under the fluorescent lights, losing value by the minute. Now, walk around back to your patio. See that? That's the $1,500 professional-grade smoker grill, the one that weighs 400 pounds and looks like it belongs behind a barbecue restaurant in Texas. You watched 12 YouTube videos before you bought it. You read every single review. You spent 3 Saturdays researching whether you wanted offset or pellet, and then you bought it in May, used it twice, once for Memorial Day and once when your brother-in-law came over, and it has been sitting under a tarp since August. Here is the thing I want to propose to you today. A thesis, if you want to call it that. You are not buying tools, you are buying a costume. A costume for a version of yourself that doesn't actually exist yet. A version you believe deeply and sincerely that you are going to become. The rugged guy, the outdoorsman, the weekend warrior. The guy who smokes brisket on Sunday afternoons with cold beer and good company and absolutely nowhere else to be. That guy is not a bad guy to want to be. But here is the brutal truth. You are buying his gear before you have built his life. And the weight of that gear, the financial weight, the psychological weight, is one of the main things preventing you from ever actually becoming him. Stay with me. This is going to make a lot of sense.
I want you to do something for me. Right now, or the next time you get home, I want you to open your garage door and just stand there for a second. Don't walk in, just look. Because what you are looking at is not a storage unit. It is not a garage in the practical sense of the word. What you are actually looking at is a museum. I call it the museum of the fantasy self, and every single item in that space is an exhibit, a monument to the version of you that you have been planning to become for the past several years. There in the corner, still in the original packaging from 3 Christmases ago, those are the woodworking tools, the router table, the orbital sander, the hand planes, and the nice wooden case. You had a vision. You were going to build things with your hands, furniture maybe, a workbench, a set of shelves for the living room. You watched a guy on YouTube build a dining table out of reclaimed walnut and something in your chest lit up like a furnace. That is who you are supposed to be, a man who builds things. Those tools have never touched wood. Over there, hanging on the wall, that is the camping gear. The 4-season tent rated to -20 degrees, the sleeping bags that cost more than your first car payment, the camp stove, the trekking poles, the collapsible water filter. You were going to get out into nature. You were going to disconnect, hike some real miles, sleep under real stars, come back Monday morning feeling like a different person. When did you last go camping? Think about it. Really think. And look, I am not picking on you. I am describing a pattern that is incredibly common among men in exactly your situation. And here's the psychological reason it happens, because understanding the why is the whole point of this video. When a man feels trapped, Genuinely, deeply trapped by his commute and his job and his obligations and the sense that his time is not his own, his brain starts to look for exits. Not real exits, necessarily, but psychological pressure valves, ways to manage the feeling of being caged. And for a lot of men, buying gear is that pressure valve. Think about what the gear represents on a symbolic level. The camping equipment represents freedom from structure. The woodworking tools represent mastery and creation with your own two hands. The truck represents the ability to go anywhere, carry anything, need nothing. The grill represents leisure and ease and gathering. Every single item in that garage is a physical symbol of a quality you feel like you are missing from your actual life. You are not shopping for products. You are shopping for feelings. And the retail industry knows this about you better than you know it about yourself. The entire marketing apparatus behind trucks and outdoor gear and power tools is not selling you the object, it is selling you the identity. The ad does not show a guy commuting to an office in the F-150. It shows him crossing a river in Montana at dawn, because they are not in the truck business. They are in the fantasy self business, and business is very, very good. Your garage is full of their product. And here's the saddest part. Every time you walk past those exhibits on your way to do laundry or take out the trash, there is a small, quiet voice in the back of your head that says, "Someday. Someday I'll use those tools. Someday we'll go camping. Someday I'll have the time." That voice is not motivating you. That voice is quietly crushing you. Every someday is a reminder of the gap between who you are and who you thought you were going to be. The museum is not a plan. It is a monument to a plan you made and never executed. And every month, you are paying to keep the lights on in there.
Now, let's get into the core illusion, because this is the one that really gets people, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. When you buy a kayak, your brain does something interesting. It tells you that by acquiring the kayak, you have also acquired the free Saturday morning to use it, as if the kayak and the morning came bundled together in the same purchase. You hand over the credit card at the outdoor sports store, and somewhere in the back of your mind, a Saturday morning materializes on your mental calendar. Clear sky, no obligations, you and the water and nothing else. But that Saturday morning does not actually exist. It was never part of the deal. The kayak just sits in the garage. The Saturday morning is still the same Saturday morning it has always been, full of errands and chores and the kids' soccer game and the 18 things on the list that your wife texted you on Friday afternoon. The kayak did not change any of that. The kayak just added one more thing to store. So why does the brain do this? Why does buying an object feel, in the moment, like it changes the structure of your life? Because the purchase triggers a dopamine release that is nearly identical to the one you would get from actually doing the activity. Your brain is not very good at distinguishing between having a thing and using a thing. The anticipation of future pleasure, the vision of yourself in the kayak moving across the water on a perfect morning, fires the same reward circuitry as the real experience. So you get a genuine hit of good feeling when you buy it, real neurochemical satisfaction. The problem is that the hit fades in a few days, the kayak is still in the garage, and the Saturday morning still does not exist. This is why the feeling of buying something new always wears off, and you are left with the object and the payment. It is not a character flaw, it's just how the brain works. The anticipation of the thing is more pleasurable than the thing itself, and the act of purchasing converts a vague future fantasy into a concrete present-tense object, which feels for a moment like progress, like you are one step closer to being that guy. You are not one step closer to being that guy. You are deeper in debt, and you have one more thing in the garage. Here is another version of the same illusion, the massive professional grill. The fantasy attached to that grill is extremely specific. It's a Sunday afternoon in late September, weather is perfect, you have exactly 0 work emails you're worried about. Your friends are coming over at 3, there's no stress about money, no project due Monday, no undone task nagging at you. You are fully present, enjoying yourself, being the host.
being the guy, living the version of life you want to be living.
But buying a 400-pound smoker did not create that afternoon. That afternoon requires free time, financial peace of mind, and mental space, none of which come in the box. What came in the box is a 400-pound smoker. The afternoon is a completely separate problem that the smoker does not solve.
I want to be very clear about something here because I know some guys are going to say, well, Dave, I do use my grill sometimes. And sure, maybe you do, 2 or 3 times a year. But the question is not whether you use it. The question is whether you use it enough to justify the financial and psychological weight of owning it. And the follow-up question is the expensive version of the thing making your life meaningfully better than the $200 version would? Almost never, because you are not buying the grill for the function, you are buying the grill for the identity. And identity does not require a 400-pound smoker. Identity is built with your actual time and your actual choices. The gear is just decoration on a life you have not built yet.
All right, let's do some math, and I promise to keep it simple because the numbers here don't need to be complicated to be devastating. You bought a $70,000 truck. Let's say you put $5,000 down. That leaves you with a $65,000 loan. At a typical current interest rate, you're looking at somewhere around $800 to $850 a month in principal and interest alone. Now, add the insurance premium. On a new truck, a full coverage policy for a 35-year-old male will run you somewhere between $150 and $250 a month, depending on where you live, substantially more than you were paying on your old paid-off car. Now, add fuel. That truck is getting maybe 17 miles per gallon in mixed driving. At current gas prices, if you drive an average amount, you are spending probably an extra $150 to $200 a month on gas compared to a more efficient vehicle. Conservatively, that truck is costing you somewhere between $1,100 and $1,200 a month over what it would cost you to drive a boring, reliable, paid-off car. That is $14,000 a year, every year, for the next 6 years minimum. Now, here's the question I want you to really sit with. Where does that extra $1,200 a month come from? It comes from you, from your time, from your labor. You have to earn it. And the way you earn more money, in most cases, is by working more hours, taking on the extra project, staying late on Thursdays, saying yes to the weekend call, skipping the vacation day because the optics at work are not great right now. Every extra dollar you need to service that truck payment has a corresponding hour of your life attached to it. Do you see the paradox yet? I want you to really see it because it is almost elegant in how cruel it is. You bought the truck because you felt exhausted and trapped and like your life was just work and obligations. You wanted something that represented freedom and capability and the life you actually want. You bought it to feel better about the grind. And now, in order to afford the truck, you have to grind harder. More hours, more stress, more saying no to the things you actually wanted to do. The thing you bought to cope with your exhaustion was manufacturing more exhaustion to pay for itself. The truck is financing your own misery. Let that land for a second. And it is not just the truck. Run this same math across the whole museum. The monthly payment on the credit card that carries the grill and the camping gear and the woodworking tools. The storage unit you rented last year because the garage was full. The increased heating and cooling bills in a house you bought partially because you needed a 3-car garage to hold all of this. Every exhibit in the museum has a cost, and every cost has a corresponding hour of your life attached to it. There is a useful way to think about this that I find really clarifying. Instead of thinking about prices in dollars, think about them in hours. If you make $50 an hour after taxes, and I'm being generous here for the sake of round numbers, that $70,000 truck costs you 1,400 hours of your life. 1,400 hours. That is roughly 35 40-hour weeks of your existence gone, before you even factor in the interest you're paying on the loan. You did not buy a truck. You traded 35 weeks of your life for a vehicle that hauls groceries and loses 10% of its value the moment you drove it off the lot. Now, here's the other side of that math, and this is the part that people don't think about enough. The free Saturday you've been fantasizing about, the one where you wake up with nowhere to be and nothing owed to anyone, and your whole day is just yours, that Saturday is not something you buy.
That Saturday is something you create by removing financial obligations. Every payment you eliminate is time you get back, not metaphorically, literally. The absence of an $800 truck payment is time. It is the hours you no longer have to trade for those dollars. It is the Thursday you can leave at 5. It is the Sunday where you are anxiously checking your bank account before you decide if you can afford to go to brunch. The gear was supposed to fill your free time, but the gear is the reason you have no free time to fill.
So what do you actually do with this information? Because I am not going to sit here and tell you to make a budget spreadsheet. That is not the problem. The problem is not a math problem. The problem is a psychological one, and it requires a psychological solution. The solution is this: you have to mourn the fantasy self. I mean that seriously, and I want to explain what I mean because I think it is the most important thing I will say in this video. The fantasy self, the guy with the workshop and the campsite and the perfect Sunday afternoon at the grill, is real to you. He has been a companion in your head for years. He is what you are working toward. He is why you get up on Monday. And telling yourself that he does not exist, that you have been buying gear for a life you are not actually living, is genuinely painful. It is a small grief, the death of a version of yourself you were counting on. I am not going to pretend otherwise. It stings. And I think one of the reasons men do not have this conversation with themselves is because it stings, and it is easier to just not look at it too directly. Easier to keep paying the payments and keep saying someday and keep the museum intact. But here's what I know happens on the other side of that grief, from talking to men who have gone through it. The guys who sold the truck and bought a 4-year-old reliable car for cash. The guys who listed the camping gear on Facebook Marketplace and found that most of it sold the same day, because there are a lot of people out there who actually do go camping and need gear. The guys who moved the woodworking tools out of the museum and into a shared workshop space where they might actually use them occasionally. Those guys almost universally describe the same feeling afterward: relief, and almost physical relief, like putting down something heavy you did not realize you had been carrying. The garage goes from a monument to failure into a functional space. The driveway goes from a status display into a place where a reliable car parks. The bank account stops being a source of low-grade, constant anxiety. And the weekend, this is the part that really gets people. The weekend starts to feel different when you are not financially strapped. You wake up on a Saturday morning, you have no payment due this week that you are stressed about, you have no financial pressure driving you to check your work email before 9 a.m., you have a completely empty day and a little breathing room in the bank, and you can do absolutely anything. Go for a hike. Actually go, with the $5 entry pass and a pair of decent shoes you already own. Cook something on a $300 grill that you own outright. Drive your paid-off car to the lake. Have people over and not silently calculate whether you can afford the food and beer. That is the life. That is the one you were trying to buy. And the reason you could not buy it is because it was never for sale. It's only available through one currency, and that currency is not money. It is the absence of financial pressure and the presence of your own time. Here's what I want you to take away from this. The fantasy self is not your enemy. He is a signal. He is your brain telling you what qualities actually matter to you. Freedom, capability, presence, mastery, rest. Those are real, legitimate needs. The problem is not that you want those things. The problem is the delivery mechanism. You are trying to get freedom through the purchase of freedom-adjacent objects, and it doesn't work that way. Every object you buy to represent freedom comes with a payment, and payments are the opposite of freedom. So the work is actually simpler than it sounds. Take an honest inventory. Walk through the museum. Look at every exhibit and ask yourself one question. Does this item represent who I actually am and how I actually spend my time? Or does it represent who I planned to become? If the answer is the second one, and you've been saying someday about it for more than a year, it's time to let it go. Sell it. Use the money to pay down something. Reclaim a payment. Trade that object for actual time in your actual life. A boring, paid-off car and an empty Saturday morning is not a compromise. It's not settling. It's the whole point. The guy who wakes up with no financial stress on a Saturday morning and a full tank of gas and a car he owns outright, that guy has more real freedom than the guy making payments on a $70,000 truck and hoping someday things slow down enough to enjoy it.
Things don't slow down on their own. You have to stop paying for the speed. I'm Dollar Dave. Close the museum, get your time back, and go do whatever you want. See you in the next one.